The scream of the engines drowned out everything but the thunderous crack of lightning splitting the sky like a vein bursting in God's forehead. Jacob jolted awake in seat 8A, his heart slamming against his ribs as the plane bucked wildly, oxygen masks dangling like nooses from the ceiling. In that split second, before the captain's voice crackled over the intercom begging for a combat pilot among the passengers, Jacob knew the ghosts of his old life had just hijacked the flight. Jacob gripped the armrests, his knuckles whitening against the worn leather, as the cabin lights flickered erratically. The woman next to him, a middle-aged executive with pearls clutched in her fist, whimpered softly, her manicured nails digging into his forearm. He didn't flinch. Years of barrel rolls over hostile skies in an F-16 had burned out any room for panic. It was just muscle memory now, etched into his bones like the faded tattoo of a screaming eagle on his shoulder. Seattle to New York, a routine red-eye to patch things up with his ex, Ryan, or at least salvage some dignity from the wreckage of their 5-year spiral. But this turbulence wasn't metaphorical anymore. It was real, raw, and clawing at the underbelly of the Boeing 737. The captain's voice cut through again, strained but steady. Folks, we've lost primary hydraulics. If there's anyone on board with combat flight experience, please identify yourself to the crew immediately. The words hung in the recycled air, thick with the scent of spilled coffee and fierce sweat. Jacob unbuckled his seatbelt before he could talk himself out of it, his legs unfolding like rusty hinges. He was 32, lean from too many skipped gym sessions and nights nursing whiskey in his Capitol Hill apartment, but the fire in his veins hadn't dimmed. Not entirely. He pushed past the curtain into the galley, where 2 flight attendants huddled over a tablet, their faces pale under the emergency strips. "I'm Jacob Hale," he said, voice low and even, like briefing a squadron. "Air Force, 8 years in fighters. F-16s, mostly." The lead attendant, a wiry guy named Marco with a name tag crooked on his vest, exhaled sharply. Thank God. The cockpit door cracked open just enough for the first officer to wave him in, his eyes bloodshot from the strain. Inside, the cockpit was a confessional of blinking warnings and shuddering controls. Captain Elena Vasquez, mid-40s with salt and pepper hair pulled into a severe bun, didn't look up from the yoke. "Hydraulics are shot," she muttered, fingers dancing over the panel. "We're holding altitude for now, but the gear might not deploy on approach. LaGuardia Tower says winds are gusting 50 knots crosswind. You flying worse." Jacob slid into the jump seat, the harness biting into his shoulders. Had left all this behind 2 years ago, after the crash that took his wingman, after the inquiries that painted him as the hero who wasn't fast enough. PTSD, they called it, but it felt more like a hollow victory medal dangling from his soul. Now, staring at the storm-lashed windshield, he felt the old rhythm pulse back. "Talk me through it," he said, scanning the gauges. "Rudder authority down to 40%. You'll need asymmetric thrust on final." Vasquez nodded, a ghost of a smile cracking her lips. "You're that Hale? The one from the Syrian op? Word gets around." He shrugged, avoiding her eyes. "Ancient history. Let's make this one boring." The next hour blurred into a symphony of cross-checks and clipped commands. Jacob fed her inputs, his voice a calm anchor amid the chaos. "Flaps 20, he called, as the plane groaned through another downdraft. Tower cleared them for the ILS, but the runway lights smeared into halos through the ring. Passengers later swore they felt the shift, the way the wings steadied just a hair, as if the aircraft itself trusted this stranger's hands more than its own. They touched down hard, tires screeching like a banshee on the wet tarmac, reverse thrust roaring as the fuselage fishtailed. Jacob braced, tasting copper on his tongue from where had bitten his cheek. The plane lurched to a stop 500 feet shy of the foam barriers, and for a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then applause erupted from the cabin, ragged and relieved, filtering through the door like distant thunder. Vasquez slumped back, rubbing her temples. "You just bought us all a drink, Hale." "Hell, the whole damn bar." Jacob unstrapped, his hands trembling now that the adrenaline ebbed. "Just doing what I know." He slipped out before the questions could pile up, back to 8A where his untouched ginger ale waited like a faithful dog. The woman beside him grabbed his arm again, tears streaking her mascara. "You're a miracle. What's your secret?" He managed a half-smile, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. "No secret. Just unfinished business." As the ground crew swarmed outside, floodlights carving shadows across the fuselage, Jacob pulled out his phone. No signal yet, But the message to Ryan was drafted in his mind. Landed. Storm was a bitch. See you tomorrow? He didn't send it. Not yet. The doubt gnawed deeper than usual tonight. A familiar ache that had driven him from their shared loft in Brooklyn to a solo life in Seattle's gray drizzle. Ryan, with his Wall Street charm and wandering eyes, had promised forever once, back when Jacob's scars were fresh and his nights were haunted by rotor wash and missile locks. But forever's cracked under pressure, and theirs had splintered over late nights at the office that smelled like cologne and lies. By the time they deplaned at Terminal C, the terminal buzzed with harried reunions and delayed connections. Jacob slung his duffel over his shoulder, the weight of his life in one faded canvas bag, and headed for the nearest gate lounge. Coffee first, black and scalding, to chase away the ghosts. He dropped into a molded plastic chair, scrolling through emails from his job at a Boeing subcontractor. Nothing urgent, just spreadsheets on composite failures that mirrored his own. That's when he saw him. Across the lounge, nursing a similar cup, was a man in his late 20s, built like a weekend surfer with sun-bleached blonde hair, cropped close and forearms corded from who knows what. He wore a pilot's uniform, navy blue with gold wings pinned crookedly, as if he'd thrown it on in a rush. American Airlines, by the epaulets. His eyes, hazel and sharp, flicked up from his phone, locking onto Jacob's with the precision of a targeting pod. You were in the cockpit, weren't you? The man said it casually, but there was an undercurrent, like he'd been waiting for the words to land. Jacob froze mid-sip, the coffee burning his lip. Word travels fast. You one of Vasquez's crew? The stranger shook his head, sliding into the seat opposite without invitation. Passenger. Deadheading to LAX. Name's Tyler Reed. Saw you come out looking like you'd wrestled a bear and won. Respect. His voice carried a faint Texas drawl, softened by years away from the panhandle, and his smile was easy, disarming. The kind that made Jacob's defenses flicker like faulty NAV lights. Jacob Hale, he replied, extending a hand that still hummed with phantom yoke vibrations. Just glad no one ended up as chum for the Hudson. Tyler's grip was firm, lingering a beat too long, his thumb brushing Jacob's knuckles in a way that sent a low current up his arm. The kind of touch that lingered in memory, uninvited but welcome. They talked then, the way strangers do after cheating death together, halting at first, then spilling like the rain outside. Tyler was a first officer on regional jets, fresh off a route from Dallas, dreaming of the majors but stuck in the minors. Divorced young, no kids, the kind of guy who chased sunsets from 30,000 feet to outrun his regrets. Jacob shared scraps of his own story, the Air Force hitch that ended in a fireball over Raqqa, the honorable discharge that felt like a pink slip from fate. He skipped the part about Ryan, the fights over deployment ghosts invading their bed, the final straw when he walked in on Ryan with a colleague at a holiday party, arms entangled under mistletoe that tasted like betrayal. You ever miss it? Tyler asked, leaning forward, elbows on knees, his uniform shirt straining across his chest. The rush. The reason you breathe. Every damn day, Jacob admitted, surprised at the honesty. But it's a jealous mistress. Takes more than it gives. Tyler nodded, something raw flashing in his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or hunger. In aviation, they called it the Bermuda Triangle of the heart. Fly too close, and you vanish. The lounge announcement crackled. Flight 472 to Seattle, now boarding. Jacob stood, the moment fracturing like ice under boots. Seattle's home. You? LAX, but I've got layover till morning. Tyler's gaze held steady. If you're ever in SoCal, look me up. Beers on the hero who saved Christmas. He scribbled his number on a napkin, the ink smudging slightly under his thumb. Jacob pocketed it, a small rebellion against the script had written for this trip. Maybe. Safe skies, Reed. As he walked the jetway, the napkin burned in his pocket like contraband, a spark in the dull ache of routine. New York waited, with its concrete canyons and unresolved endings, but for the first time in months, Jacob felt the pull of something new, not a destination, but a direction. The cab from LaGuardia deposited him at Ryan's brownstone in Williamsburg just past midnight, the brownstone's facade glowing under sodium lamps like a stage set for reconciliation. Jacob paid the driver with a crumpled 20, his duffel thumping against the stoop as he climbed the steps. The buzzer hummed to life under his thumb, and Ryan's voice crackled through the speaker, sleepy and surprised. Jake, that you? Get up here. The door clicked open, and Ryan was there in boxers and a threadbare Mets tee, his dark hair tousled from sleep or something else. He pulled Jacob into a hug that smelled of sandalwood and takeout lo mein, strong arms wrapping around him like nothing had shattered. "Missed you, man." "Storm delay?" Jacob melted into it for a second, the familiarity a balm on raw nerves. "Yeah, rough one." He stepped back, scanning Ryan's face for the tells, the averted eyes, the too quick smile. "Clean for now." They collapsed onto the couch, a bottle of Pinot Grigio appearing like magic, glasses clinking in the lamplight. "Talk to me," Ryan said, pouring generously. "What's eating you out there in the rain?" Jacob swirled his wine, the legs trailing slow like tears. "The usual. Job steady but empty. And us." He let it hang, the unspoken wreckage between them. Ryan reached for his hand, thumb tracing the callus on his palm from old stick grips. "I screwed up, Jake. That party, it was nothing. A mistake. I'm clean now, therapy twice a week. Give me another shot?" The plea tugged, a hook in Jacob's chest. Ryan had always been the charmer, the one who made Brooklyn feel like home with rooftop barbecues and stolen kisses in Prospect Park. But the trust was frayed, threads pulling loose at the edges. "Maybe," Jacob murmured, clinking glasses again. "One day at a time." Morning broke gray and drizzly, New York's default palette. Ryan whipped up Eggs Benedict in the tiny kitchen, humming off-key to some indie playlist, while Jacob showered off the flight grime. The hot water needled his skin, steam fogging the mirror where his reflection blurred into anonymity. 32 felt like borrowed time some days, veteran status that opened doors but closed others, especially in a world still whispering about don't ask, don't tell echoes. They spent the day wandering the city like tourists in their own history. Coffee at that hole in the wall on Bedford, where Ryan once proposed with a ring hidden in a coronet. A stroll through McCarran Park, leaves crunching underfoot in shades of burnt orange. Ryan talked fast, filling silences with plans. Weekend in the Hamptons, maybe a couple's retreat upstate. Jacob nodded, half listening, his mind drifting to the cockpit, to Vasquez's grateful nod, to Tyler's drawl wrapping around safe skies like a promise. By evening, they were at a dive bar in Greenpoint, all exposed brick and craft IPAs. Ryan's arm slung casual over Jacob's shoulders. The place thrummed with afterwork chatter, hipsters nursing whiskeys beside grizzled locals. That's when Ryan's phone buzzed, insistent on the scarred wooden table. He glanced at it, face tightening imperceptibly, and silenced it. "Who was that?" Jacob asked, voice light but probing. "Client." "Nothing." Ryan waved it off, signaling for another round. But the seed lodged, a tiny burr in Jacob's gut. He excused himself to the restroom, splashing water on his face under the harsh fluorescence. In the mirror, his eyes looked haunted, the blue stormy as the Atlantic they'd crossed. Pulling out his phone, he typed Tyler's number before he could stop himself. "Landed safe. City's chewing me up already. Beers soon?" The reply came swift. "Hell yeah. Rain check on the skies. What's your poison?" Jacob smiled, small and secret, pocketing the phone as guilt twisted like a knife. Betrayal wasn't just Ryan's domain. It lived in him too, in the what-ifs that bloomed unbidden. Back at the bar, Ryan was animated, gesturing with his pint about a big merger closing next week. "Promotion material, babe. We could move to a bigger place, maybe Chelsea." Jacob forced enthusiasm, but the words rang hollow. That night, in bed, Ryan's snores filled the room while Jacob lay awake, tracing constellations on the ceiling. Orion's belt, a pilot's map to nowhere. The next day cracked open with possibility or peril. Jacob couldn't tell. Ryan had an early meeting, kissing him goodbye with coffee breath and murmured "I love yous." Alone in the loft, Jacob paced the hardwood floors, sunlight slanting through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the East River. The space screamed success. Exposed beams, Eames' chair by the bookshelf lined with first editions, a king bed where memories tangled like sheets. But it felt least temporary, like his life. He called his sister, Lila, back in Spokane. The Hales were Washington stock, Dad a logger turned realtor, Mom a schoolteacher with a voice like honeyed gravel. Lila, 28 and fiercely straight-edge, answered on the second ring. "Jakey, how's the Big Apple treating you? Ryan behaving?" "He's trying," Jacob said, sinking onto the couch. "Me too, I guess. How's the vineyard?" "Lush. Wedding season's killing me, but in a good way." Pause. "You sound off. Spill." He did, in fragments. The flight, the storm, Tyler's napkin burning a hole. Lila listened, her end silent save for the occasional cluck. You deserve more than patching leaks. Bro, Ryan's a shark. Always will be. Trust your gut. It steered you through worse. Gut said run, or stay, or both. He hung up lighter, but adrift. Mid-morning, his phone pinged. Vasquez, a text with a photo of the crew toasting at an airport pub. Heroes welcome. Oh, you. He smiled, forwarding it to Tyler on impulse. Cruise buying. Wish you were here. LOL. Next storm's on me. Tyler's reply came with a winking emoji, casual but charged. Ryan returned at lunch. Takeout from that falafel spot they loved. His tie loosened like an invitation. They ate cross-legged on the floor, knees touching, laughing over old stories. The time Jacob buzzed the Williamsburg Bridge on a dare, Ryan white-knuckled in the passenger seat of a rented Cessna. But midway through, Ryan's phone lit up again, screen facing down. This time, Jacob glimpsed the name, Alex, the colleague from the party. He set his fork down. Alex? Ryan froze, falafel halfway to mouth. Work buddy. Why? The lie hung, thin as fog. Jacob pushed. The one from last Christmas? Under the mistletoe? Ree's face shuddered, defenses snapping up. That was one time. Drunk. Over. Jesus, Jake, we're good now. Don't drag skeletons. But skeletons rattled, and this one clawed free. Jacob stood, pulse thundering. Therapy fixing that? Or just the symptoms? Ryan surged up too, plate clattering. You fly in, play savior on some plane, then judge me? I've changed. You haven't, still running from your shit, hiding in Seattle like a coward. The word landed like a surface-to-air, exploding Jacob's calm. Coward? I buried my best friend while you chased tail at parties. Don't lecture me on hiding. They shouted then, words volleying like flares, accusations of neglect, infidelity, emotional walls built from desert sand. Ryan grabbed his arm, pleading, then shoving when words failed. Jacob wrenched free, duffel in hand before he knew it, storming down the stairs into the drizzle that had turned to sheets. The subway swallowed him, rattling toward Manhattan like a vein pulsing with rage. He ended up at a hostel in the East Village, the kind with bunk beds and shared baths, anonymity and threadbare sheets. Curled on the lower bunk, phone clutched like a lifeline, he texted Tyler, "Nye's a minefield. Need that beer more than air." Response, coordinates? Wheels up tomorrow, but tonight's yours. They met at a speakeasy off Houston, all velvet curtains and jazz humming low. Tyler arrived in civvies, jeans hugging his thighs, a Henley unbuttoned at the collar revealing a sliver of tanned chest. He slid into the booth, 2 whiskeys in hand, eyes scanning Jacob's face like pre-flight checks. Rough day? Jacob exhaled, the liquor burning smooth. You could say. X is a grenade with the pin half out. Pulled it today. Tyler leaned in, voice dropping. Want details or distraction? Distraction. Jacob clinked glasses, the amber liquid catching the low light. Tell me about Texas. Sunsets that make you forget. Tyler obliged, painting pictures with drawl-thick words. Panhandle skies bleeding red over cotton fields. First kisses behind the bleachers at homecoming. The ache of leaving it all for cockpits and contracts. Jacob shared in turn, the Syrian sun baking his visor, the wingman's laugh cut short by fire. Vulnerability flowed easy with strangers, or maybe Tyler wasn't one anymore. Hours blurred, shots turning to stories, laughter edging into touches. Knee against knee under the table, fingers brushing as they reached for peanuts. When the bar called last call, Tyler hailed a cab, arm around Jacob's waist like it belonged. Your place or mine? Neutral ground? Hostile, Jacob murmured, head on Tyler's shoulder as the city streaked by. Cheap and forgettable. The bunk was narrow, but they made it work, bodies fitting like puzzle pieces long separated. Tyler's mouth was soft, insistent, tasting of whiskey and want. Hands explored scars and sinew, breaths mingling in the dim glow of a street lamp filtering through thin curtains. It wasn't love, not yet, just release, a counterpoint to the pain clawing at Jacob's heels. Afterward, Tyler traced the eagle tattoo, lips brushing the ink. You're more than your ghosts, Hale. Believe that? Jacob wanted to, in that hazy afterglow. But dawn brought clarity, and with it, a text from Ryan. Come back. Please. I love you. Guilt crashed in, title. He slipped from the bunk while Tyler slept, leaving a note on hostel stationery. Last night was real, but I'm figuring my heading. Safe skies. The flight home to Seattle was uneventful, a balm of monotony. Jacob stared out at the clouds, Typhon's fleece, wondering if he'd just traded one storm for another. Lila picked him up at Seattle-Tacoma, her Subaru idling curbside with the heat blasting. "Spill," she demanded, merging into I-5 traffic. He did. The whole messy knot. Ryan's lies, Tyler's warmth, the cockpit epiphany that maybe saving planes was easier than saving himself. Lila squeezed his hand at a red light. "Hearts aren't F-16s, Jake. No eject button, but you can reroute." Back in his apartment, the view of Puget Sound glittered under a rare sun, fairies cutting white wakes like veins. He unpacked, the napkin long gone but Tyler's number etched in memory. A week passed in routine, shifts at Boeing, runs along the waterfront where joggers nodded anonymous hellos, evenings with takeout and true crime docs to drown the quiet. Then, the call came. Vasquez, voice crackling over the line. "Hale, got a favor. Airlines putting together a vet mentorship program, simulator time for transitioning pilots. Your name came up. Interested?" He paused, coffee mug warm in hand. "Why me?" "Because you don't just fly. You land." She chuckled. "First sessions in 2 weeks, Orlando. All expenses." Orlando, Florida sun, a world away from Seattle's mist. He said yes, impulse or fate. He couldn't parse. Packing light, he boarded the flight, seat 12C this time, no storms on the horizon. The simulator bay at the training center hummed with AC chill and the whine of virtual engines. Vasquez introduced him to the group. A dozen vets, men and women had traded cockpits for cubicles, eyes hungry for the stick again. Jacob stood at the front, nerves jangling like loose rivets. "I'm no instructor," he started, "but I know what it's like to miss the sky. Let's get you back up there." Sessions blurred into days. Mornings in the sim, debriefs over lukewarm pizza, evenings wandering Orlando sprawl, Disney glow bleeding into strip malls, the air thick with jasmine and jet fuel from nearby bases. Tyler texted sporadically. "How's the Sunshine State? Miss the hero vibes." "Warm. Complicated," Jacob replied, attaching a photo of the sim panel, lights winking like stars. "Complicated how? Shoot." But he didn't, not yet. Instead, he poured it into the group, stories of near misses and the hollow after. One night, post-session beers at a tiki bar, a young vet named Marcus cornered him. "Sir, Jacob, how'd you know when to bail? On the service, I mean. Or a relationship?" The question gut-punched. Jacob sipped his Mai Tai, the rum sweet on his tongue. "You don't always know. Sometimes you crash, pick up the pieces. But the landing? That's where you rebuild." Marcus nodded, eyes distant. "Thanks, man. Means something from you." Word spread. By week's end, Jacob felt the shift, not just teaching, but healing, shards of his own wreckage mending in the telling. Vasquez pulled him aside on the last day. "You're a natural. Airlines got openings for consultants. Think about it." He did, on the flight home, head against the window as Florida receded. Ryan called midway, voice tentative through the altitude static. "Heard about the program. Proud of you, Jake. Space if you need it." "Thanks," he said, meaning it. "But space is what I have." Seattle welcomed him with drizzle, the patter on his balcony a lullaby. He ran that night, pounding pavement past coffee shops and breweries, the city's pulse syncing with his. At a crossroads near Pike Place, phone in hand, he dialed Tyler. "Reed." "Hale, Orlando was. Good. You free next layover?" Pause. Then that drawl, warm as Gulf breeze. "For you? Always." "When?" 2 weeks. LAX to SEA. Meet in the middle? Deal. Can't wait to see if you handle turbulence as well off-duty." Jacob laughed, the sound foreign but fitting. "See you then." The weeks crawled, anticipation a low hum under daily grind. Ryan faded to occasional texts, amicable, untethered. Jacob dove deeper into work, pitching a vet integration program to his Boeing boss, sketches of mentorship pipelines scribbled on napkins. Lila visited, dragging him to a Mariners game, where they heckled umps over hot dogs and Kraft Alash. "Life," she said, socking his arm, "doesn't wait for perfect weather." Tyler landed in Seattle on a Thursday, jet-lagged but grinning, duffel slung over one shoulder as he scanned baggage claim. Jacob waited by the escalator, heart doing barrel rolls. They hugged, awkward at first, then tight, Tyler's chin hooking over his shoulder. "Good to see you upright," Tyler murmured. "You too." Jacob pulled back, scanning the familiar face. hazel eyes crinkling at corners, stubble shadowing his jaw. Hungry? Starving. Let on. They hit a seafood shack on Alki Beach, oysters slick with brine, waves lapping the shore under a cotton candy sunset. Conversation flowed easy. Tyler's latest route mishap over the Rockies. Jacob's sim triumphs. Laughter bridged the gaps. Touches lingered. Fingers grazing shells. Knees bumping under the picnic table. After, they walked the pier, salt air tangling their hair. Tyler stopped at the rail, facing the sound where Olympics loomed purple in dusk. So this ex, Ryan, still in the picture? Jacob leaned beside him, elbows on damp wood. Not like that. We're civil, but you. Last night in New York. That was the spark. Tyler turned, eyes searching. Sparks mutual, but am grounded in Dallas half the time. You're rain-soaked here. Logistics suck. Yeah, Jacob exhaled, the admission freeing. But worth trying? One leg at a time? Tyler's hand found his, calloused palm warm. Hell yeah. Cross-country love story. Sounds cinematic. They kissed then, slow and sure, the world narrowing to lips and heartbeat. Fairy horns moaning distant approval. Back at Jacob's apartment, clothes shed like old skins, bodies mapping new territories. Tyler was gentle, reverent, tracing every scar with lips and whispers. You're beautiful, hail, broken bits and all. Dawn found them tangled, coffee brewing as Tyler sketched flight paths on a notepad. Stay the weekend? He asked. Wish I could. Red-eye tomorrow. But next month, Dallas. Your turf. Tyler's grin lit the room. Tour guide duty. Barbecue and bad decisions. The goodbye at the airport was soft, a promise sealed with a stolen kiss behind the security line. Jacob watched Tyler's back disappear into the scrum, a lightness settling like contrails dispersing. But storms brew unannounced. 2 weeks later, mid-shift at Boeing, his phone rang. Unknown number, DFW area code. Hello? Jacob? Vasquez. Bad news. One of your mints, Marcus, downed his rental on approach to Orlando. Weather, they say. But he was struggling. Your sessions helped, but not enough. The words hollowed him, air sucked from lungs. How? Engine failure. No fault. Just gone. Like that. Jacob sank into his chair, the office blurring. Had seen the signs in Marcus. The 1,000-yard stare, the jokes too sharp. But had thought. There's more, Vasquez pressed. Airlines investigating. Rumors of impairment. You were close. Anything I should know? No. Jacob hung up, while rising. Guilt crashed, tidal and unforgiving. Had flown with ghosts before, but this one wore a mint's face. He drove home in a daze, Rainier a smudge through tears. Tyler texted, thinking of you. Call. Can't. Bad day. The silence stretched days, Tyler's messages piling unanswered. Ryan reached out too, sensing the fracture. Here if you need. No strings. Pride or pain kept Jacob walled, nights blurring into whiskey and what-ifs. Lila flew in, forcing soup and straight talk. You can't save everyone, Jake. Not your job. Not God's. But it felt like failure, a repeat of Raqqa, too slow, too late. The program stalled. Vasquez's emails gentle but insistent. Take time. We're here. Tyler showed up unannounced on a rainy Tuesday, pounding the door until Jacob opened, hollow-eyed and unshaven. What the hell, Hale? Radio silence? I flew standby for this. Go back, Jacob muttered, blocking the threshold. Not now. Tyler pushed in, dripping on the mat. Bullshit. Talk. It spilled then, Marcus's crash, the echoes of his own losses, the terror of loving when loss loomed. Tyler listened, arms crossed, then pulled him close, rain-soaked shirt chilling skin. You're human, not invincible. Let me in. They fought that night, words raw as open wounds, Tyler's frustration at the walls, Jacob's fear of dragging him down. Plates shattered, voices rose, until exhaustion claimed them, slumped on the floor amid shards. Morning brought truce, Tyler's hand in his as they swept glass. I'm not running, Tyler said, bandaging a cut on Jacob's palm. But you gotta meet me halfway. Jacob nodded, the first crack in the ice. Halfway. Rebuilding started small, therapy sessions via video, Tyler's face a steady anchor from Dallas motels. Joint runs when routes aligned, breaths sinking on Seattle trails. Ryan faded fully, A chapter closed with a final coffee, clean break, mutual respect. The high point crested in summer, a weekend in Montana, big sky country, Tyler's family ranch outside Bozeman. Hay scented air, horses nickering in dawn light. Tyler's dad, a weathered rancher with a grip like iron, clapped Jacob's shoulder. Treat him right, flyboy. Mom's pie was legend, served with stories of Tyler's wild youth. Nights by the fire pit, stars a dome overhead, Tyler leaned into him. This us. It's the real flight path. Jacob kissed his temple, fireflies winking approval. Yeah, home course. But climax loomed, inevitable as a squall line. Fall brought Tyler's promotion. Captain on 737s, based in Dallas permanent. Logistics, once bendy, snapped taut. Arguments flared over FaceTime. Missed connections, rescheduled dates, the grind wearing thin. Then, the betrayal, not Tyler's, but fate's cruel twist. Jacob's checkup revealed a shadow on his lung. Shrapnel souvenir turned malignant. Early stage, doc said, but treatment meant chemo, radiation, grounding him indefinite. He told Tyler over wine in his apartment, words measured like ordnance drops. Tyler went still, glass trembling. We'll fight it. Together. But doubt seeded. Tyler hovering, canceling shifts to play nurse, resentment simmering under care. One night, post-infusion haze, Jacob overheard Tyler on the phone. It's a lot, man. He's pulling away, and scared. The words eviscerated, sharper than any missile. Jacob confronted him dawn, for port itching under his shirt. Scared of what? Me? This? Tyler flushed, backing into the hall. No, of losing you. Of it changing us. It already has. Jacob's voice cracked. Go, before you resent the invalid. Tyler left, tears streaking, door clicking soft as a safety. Crisis peaked in solitude. Jacob alone with beeps and broth, ghosts crowding the hospital bed. Lila visited, fierce, he's wrong. But you, fight for you first. Discharge brought quiet war, scans clear after rounds, but the rift with Tyler gaped. Months passed in parallel lives, Tyler's texts polite, Jacob's replies clipped. The program relaunched without him, Vasquez sending updates like lifelines. Healing crept, insidious as dawn. Jacob volunteered at a vet center in Tacoma, sharing stories sans the sim, voices in a circle mending communal scars. One evening, a new face. Tyler, tentative in the doorway, uniform traded for flannel. Can I join? He asked, eyes pleading. Jacob nodded, throat tight. Circle widened, stories flowed. Afterward, over coffee in the lot, Tyler spoke. I bailed when it hurt. Biggest mistake. Forgive? Jacob searched those hazel depths, seeing the manhood kissed scars, chased sunsets. Not yet. But, start. They did, slow as a pattern approach. Dinners tentative, touches rediscovered. Tyler transferred regional to Seattle routes, a demotion in title, promotion in proximity. Arguments still sparked, but apologies followed, deeper each time. Winter solstice found them on a rooftop in Capitol Hill, city lights a carpet below, champagne fizzing in plastic flutes. Tyler knelt, ring glinting, simple band, tungsten tough. Marry me, hail. Turbulence and all. Jacob pulled him up, kissing fierce. Yes, to the skies. Spring bloomed reconciliation, wedding small, beachside in Oregon, waves crashing chorus to vows. Lila officiated, voice cracking on forever. Ryan sent a card, and signed but sincere, happiness, man. Years layered like nacre. Jacob's consulting gig bloomed, Tyler captaining Dreamliners, home a craftsman in Fremont with a dog named Squawk. Storms came, deployments echoes, health scares minor, but they landed, always, wings steady. In the end, it wasn't perfection, but presence. Two men, scarred and soaring, choosing each other daily. The cockpit call that changed everything? It wasn't the plane. It was the life waiting on the other side of the yoke.